I want to recast this little elephant in wax. I bought it at the Chatuchak Weekend Market in Bangkok, Thailand, and I'm sorry I don't know the name of the artist or even the studio that made it. It's a nice sculpture, but it's a cast item, and as you can see, the quality of the casting is pretty low. It's got these wicked parting lines, bubbles, and other craft flaws in the casting. Elephants are the symbol of Thailand, and everywhere you go, there are elephant souvenirs for the tourists. I like this one a lot, and I think it'll give me a good base to turn it into something else. Recasting is a great technique for taking an existing object and modding it to make it your own. I always build my mold cases out of wood, but that's because I have a wood shop, so it's easy for me. And as I always say, whatever is easiest for you is the right thing for you to do. In other words, use what you got. Don't worry about it. But I know that a lot of you guys don't have wood shops. So for this project, I decided to build the mold case out of cardboard, packing tape, and hot melt glue. The box is made in two pieces, one for the bottom and one for the four connected sides. It's easier to draw the box on the cardboard before you add the tape. I only tape the inside of the box at first. Then the box is cut out. The corners are scored, and it's assembled with hot melt glue. When you apply the tape to the outside, be careful to seal up all the edges. Even though I taped up the box well, I'm always nervous about leaks, so I'm going to seal up that one corner seam and also the bottom edges with a light coating of silicone rubber. If you notice, I put a little clay vent at the bottom of the trunk because that's the only place I needed one. And using the same rubber is a great way to stick the piece to the box. Once this rubber cures, everything will be held securely in place, and I know the box won't leak. The mold case is ready, so let's degas a batch of rubber and get this thing poured. It's important to pour from one side because I want the rubber to run from one side under and between those legs and not catch any bubbles against the underside of the piece. I let the mold sit overnight, and now it's ready to go. I've never been a fan of building mold cases using hot melt glue because I always think they're hard to take apart. But then I got a bunch of comments from viewers that said, if you use rubbing alcohol, it'll make the joints just fall apart. So I'm going to give it a try and see how it goes. I don't know about you, but I love the smell of rubbing alcohol. No wonder they denature it. Keeps people from drinking it. Wow. Wow, look at that. Wow, that's just falling apart. That worked like a champ. Wow, you guys knew what you were talking about. That thing came right apart. Easy peasy. Great technique to know about and one that I will be passing on in future videos. Now I can give the rubber flash a quick trim, and then we're ready to cut open the mold. I confess I have a fetish for sharp steel. There's nothing worse than a dull tool, so I almost always swap in a new X-Acto blade every time I cut open a mold. I just love how easy and clean the cuts are from a brand new blade. I'm going to cut the mold open using one long jagged cut from chin to tail, and then two cross cuts between the legs. The big advantage of using cut molds is that they can go in any direction, and that's very difficult to do in a classic two-piece mold. The material I'm going to recast is sculptor's wax, and we used to be able to buy it long ago, but it's no longer on the market. So most wax sculptors make their own out of a blend of waxes like carnauba and beeswax and paraffin, and other ingredients like talc and pigments like titanium dioxide and iron oxide. The oven is on the lowest possible setting so as not to burn the wax, and I always tent both the wax pot and the mold, and that's because the heating elements are intensely hot and direct exposure to it will cook both the rubber and the wax. Ooh, nice and hot, nice and hot. Since this is a fresh mold and hasn't had its first casting, it's pretty stuck together. So it's only going to take a couple of light rubber bands to hold it together and prevent it from leaking. You definitely want to stir up the wax because of all the solids in it. Otherwise, you'd have really thin running wax on top and all the heavier goop on the bottom. I'm holding onto the can with a folded paper towel. It's simple, but it's effective. just the way I like it. Any leg will serve as a sprue to pour in the wax, and then you still have 4 other vents to let the air out. Alrighty, into the tank it goes. It's not curing in the mold like resin does. It's wax, it's melted, so it's actually just cooling, and that takes a while. So I let it sit in the tank for over an hour thinking about its sins and contemplating its belly button before I got around to taking it out. Okay, what do we got? What do we got? Well, the first thing I notice is that the wax shrunk a lot, even more than I thought it would. So we're gonna have to reheat the wax and backfill the holes. So break out the heat gun again. Now, I don't have to melt very much, just enough to refill those little holes. But it is important to make sure that the wax in the mold is thoroughly melted, so it all sticks together well and you don't have any cracks in the wax. You can see that I really overfilled it, so I'm confident that won't shrink, and it's looking really good. I let the whole thing cool for several hours. The last thing you want to do is pull it out when it's soft enough to damage the casting inside. Yes, I'm going to resculpt it, but I don't want to damage any parts of the model that I'm not planning to modify. And there is our little pachyderm. He looks overall pretty good, not bad. I made the hole in the ear a lot bigger and added a couple more, but no worries, that's easily fixed, and he'll make an excellent object for recasting. It is a useful technique and one that can save you a lot of time, particularly if you have to make a bunch of things that are slightly different from one another. Hey, if you like this video and you want to support the channel, there's a link to my Patreon down below. There's also a super thanks button down there, and that's good for one-time contributions. And thanks to everybody that is supporting the channel. I appreciate it very much. I hope you like this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.